Ori couldn't sleep. The night outside was quiet, not scary, just still. The kind of stillness where your thoughts get louder. Ori had already fluffed the pillow 3 times, counted 6 imaginary sheep, and even tried holding their breath to see if that helped. It didn't. The ceiling above looked the same as always, dotted with those tiny glow-in-the-dark stickers from years ago. But tonight, it felt like the air itself was different. The moonlight came in slowly through the window, drawing a pale silver path across the wooden floor. It reached toward the rug, then curved gently toward the bed, like it knew where it wanted to go. Ori sat up, blinking. Something under the bed caught their eye, just a flicker, a glow. Not bright, just warm. They leaned over the edge of the mattress, hanging their head upside down to look. There, between a forgotten sock and a wrinkled comic book, was a folded piece of paper. Except it wasn't just paper. It shimmered like soft water, glowing faintly in the moonlight. Ori reached for it. It felt warm, like it had been waiting for a hand to touch it. Slowly, they unfolded it. It was a map. But not an ordinary map. There were no roads or cities, no mountains or rivers. Only stars. Tiny silver stars dotted the surface, each one connected by glowing lines, forming constellations Ori had never seen before. And then, something impossible. One of the stars pulsed. Gently. Like it was breathing. Like it knew it was being watched. Ori held their breath. Was it alive? Were they dreaming? Or had they just opened something that was never meant to be found? Ori couldn't look away. The star at the top of the parchment, a swirl made of tiny light threads, pulsed again. It glowed faintly, then dimmed, like it was blinking. Without even thinking, Ori reached out and touched it. The moment their fingertip brushed the paper, the world tipped. Not in a dizzy, scary way. More like falling upward. The room melted into starlight. The bed dissolved into mist. The walls faded into layers of soft silver clouds. Ori was floating. All around them, glowing shapes and patterns danced across the dark, not scary dark, but velvety, endless sky dark. Constellations bloomed like flowers. Dots connected into animals, symbols, even things Ori couldn't name. A swirl of golden stars circled their feet, lifting them higher, 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 until the parchment unfolded again in midair. Now it was enormous, a living sky. The constellations moved. Some curled into themselves, others stretched toward Ori. Each one flickered softly, invitingly, like doorways. Ori could hear something too, quiet hums, like singing bowls in a distant cave. Each star seemed to hum a different note. Then, the swirl from before pulsed again. Ori felt their hand move again. They didn't mean to, but the star was pulling at them. Not with force, just with wonder. They touched it a second time. And this time, the stars opened. Ori was pulled forward, not fast, not rough, more like stepping gently into a warm wind. The swirl stretched out, revealing a tunnel of soft, floating light. The air smelled like warm vanilla and something Ori couldn't quite name, like old books and clouds and sleepy dreams. Ori smiled. The first journey was beginning. Ori opened their eyes slowly. The sky above was a deep indigo, not dark, not light, like a color you only see in dreams. Beneath them was something soft and warm, like grass, but it sparkled faintly under their fingers, as if made from sugar or tiny crystals. Ori sat up. Around them stretched a forest, but not one from any book or cartoon. The trees were tall and smooth, with trunks in colors Ori didn't know how to name, not quite blue, not quite pink, not quite gold. Their leaves were like glass, each shaped in a different pattern, some like feathers, others like stars, and a few like tiny butterflies. When the wind blew, the entire forest chimed. Not harshly, but like hundreds of tiny bells whispering hello. Ori took a few steps forward, amazed at how soft the ground felt under their bare feet. With every step, small glimmers danced around their ankles, like the air itself was happy to see them. Then, behind a glowing tree with spiraling branches, something moved. Ori froze. A small creature peeked out, round, fluffy, and glowing faintly blue. It had big eyes, soft fur like a cloud, and tiny ears that twitched as it stared. Ori stayed still. The creature blinked, then waddled out from behind the tree, holding something in its paws, a round fruit that glowed from the inside, like it had caught a firefly. The creature tilted its head and said, in a voice softer than a sigh, "For courage." Ori blinked. "Me?" The creature nodded. Slowly, Ori stepped forward and took the fruit. It was warm. It smelled like cinnamon and sunshine and something sweet, like memories of laughing. The creature smiled and drifted backward, melting into the forest light. Ori held the fruit close. All around, the trees shimmered a little brighter. The wind made the leaves dance gently. The forest seemed pleased. And though Ori didn't fully understand what was happening, they knew something very simple. This journey was not just about seeing new places. It was about finding pieces of yourself that had been waiting quietly all along. The star map shimmered again. Ori looked down at the parchment, still floating beside them like a gentle companion. One of the constellations, a tall, sharp triangle wrapped in tiny rings, began to glow. Before Ori could wonder what it meant, the world shifted once more. The trees faded. The soft forest wind turned still. The ground beneath Ori's feet cooled. When they looked down, it was smooth, like polished crystal. Ori had arrived at the foot of a mountain. But not an ordinary one. This mountain was made entirely of clear glass. Some parts reflected the sky, others refracted light into rainbows. It sparkled like it was lit from within. Ori reached out to touch the surface. It was cool, but not cold. As they placed their foot on the first step, the mountain let out a soft chime, a high, gentle bell-like tone that rang into the air. With each step, another chime joined in. Up, step by step, Ori climbed, surrounded by soft glowing mist and music made from their footsteps. The higher they went, the quieter the world became. The sky thinned, turning pale blue, then lavender. The stars above seemed closer, not far away dots, but huge, glowing lanterns suspended just beyond reach. Then, on a narrow ledge wrapped in mist, something fluttered nearby. A creature made entirely of wind and feathers hovered beside Ori. Its wings shimmered like soap bubbles. Its face was barely visible, more of a suggestion than a shape. The creature spoke in a voice that sounded like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Don't just look," it said. "Listen." Ori closed their eyes and heard things they hadn't noticed before. Whispers in the wind. Echoes of laughter from other travelers long gone. A hum of music inside the mountain itself. It wasn't just a place. It was a memory, held in crystal. The wind creature swirled once more around Ori, and with a gentle push, guided them toward a glowing path that spiraled upward into the clouds. Ori took one more look at the shimmering mountain behind them and whispered, "Thank you." Then they stepped into the mist. The mist from the mountain faded. Ori blinked, and the world had changed again. They were standing at the edge of an ocean, but not on the ground. This ocean floated in the sky. Stretching in every direction were slow, rolling waves made of cloud and light, pearly whites, soft blues, gentle pinks. The sky above looked like water, and the water below looked like sky. Everything was upside down and right side up at once. A quiet dock stretched into the soft, glowing tide. At its end bobbed a small boat, round, woven from feather-like strands that shimmered when touched by the light. Ori climbed aboard. The boat gently pulled away from the dock, drifting without oars, guided only by the quiet rhythm of the sea. The surface of the sky ocean rippled with faint constellations, like starlight swimming just beneath. Then, movement. Flying fish leapt from the waves. Not like real fish, these were pastel-colored shapes with wings of glass and glowing fins, leaving trails of soft light behind. They danced and spiraled around the boat, giggling like wind chimes. As Ori watched, they noticed something odd. The fish were forming shapes in the air. One group made a circle. Another darted into a line. Then a curve, a triangle, a swirl, the same swirl as the first star on the map. These weren't random movements. The fish were drawing constellations, like celestial brushstrokes in the sky. The boat gently followed. Ori sat back, hugging their knees, watching the living sky write its story around them. The air smelled of salt and something sweet, like clouds made of candy. Somewhere in the distance, they could hear the distant hum of a lullaby, carried on the wind. Ori didn't speak. They didn't need to. The sky ocean understood. It was a sea made from dreams, the kind that float in before sleep, and slip away when you wake. And now, Ori was part of it. The boat slowed. The air changed. The sky ocean that had shimmered with pink and gold now dimmed into softer tones, silver, grey, pale violet. Ori looked down at the star map, which hovered beside them like a loyal friend. One star on the parchment, near the corner, blinked weakly. It didn't shine like the others. It was fading. Ori reached out and gently touched it. There was no flash this time, no swirl of colors. Only stillness. When Ori opened their eyes, they were standing in a wide, quiet place. The ground was soft grey dust. The sky was a pale mist. Trees stood still, but colorless. Flowers were frozen mid-bloom. The world looked like a forgotten memory left out in the rain. Ori walked slowly. Their footsteps left no sound. In the distance, shapes floated, half-formed animals, dream creatures without names, like shadows of something once loved. It wasn't scary. Just lonely. A whisper drifted through the air, like wind through a book with no words. This was someone's favorite place, once. Ori stopped beside a tree that looked like it had once been bright and beautiful. Now, its branches sagged, empty. The silence pressed in gently, not to frighten, but to ask something. Ori understood. They reached into their pocket and pulled out the glowing fruit from the rainbow forest. It still pulsed gently, like a sleepy heart. Ori placed it at the base of the tree. The grey ground trembled slightly, not in fear, but like a breath returning. A single petal turned pink. A tiny sound, like a bell in the distance, echoed softly. Ori stood still, watching the world hold its breath. "You are not forgotten," Ori whispered. And somewhere in the mist, the faded star on the map flickered. Just a little brighter. Ori stood quietly in the mist. Around them, the grey world felt lighter, as if it had taken a small breath. The glowing fruit at the base of the tree pulsed slowly, and from its warmth, a single flower opened, soft pink, trembling, alive. Ori knelt beside it and closed their eyes. They reached into their pocket again. From the glass mountain, they pulled out a tiny crystal chime, a gift from the wind creature. It sang softly even without being touched. Ori hung it gently on a low branch of the tree. The sound rang out, clear and delicate, and with it, something shifted. The mist began to swirl, not as fog but as color. Not fast or wild, just waking. From the other pocket, Ori brought out the final gift, a small droplet of starlight caught during the sky ocean ride. It floated above Ori's hand like a tiny moon. Ori lifted it into the air. It rose slowly, then burst, not like fire, but like memory. Light spread out in soft waves. The faded trees began to blush with green. The ground shimmered faintly. The once grey creatures in the distance began to take full form, curious, gentle, glowing. Ori turned slowly, watching the forgotten world return to life. A humming sound rose from the air itself, as if the place had always been singing. It had only needed someone to listen. The star on the parchment, once dim, now shone bright and steady. The path behind Ori lit up, formed not of stone or sky, but of memory and kindness. The tree's branches above now bloomed with thousands of tiny lights. They didn't look like normal fruit, or flowers, or stars. They looked like dreams. Ori looked up. One of the glowing orbs rose gently from the branch and floated toward them, resting just above their heart. It pulsed gently, not demanding, not loud. Just present. Ori smiled. They didn't say goodbye. This place would always remember. And Ori would too. The dream tree glowed softly behind Ori, its branches swaying in a wind that didn't stir the air, only the heart. Ori stood still, bathed in its warmth. Around them, the dream world shimmered, not with brightness, but with peace. The kind of glow that comes just before sleep, or just after waking. The star map floated in front of Ori once more. All its stars now shone brightly, even the one that had once flickered. Lines of light danced gently between them, forming a pattern that was no longer unfamiliar. It was a path. Ori touched the final star. And this time, there was no whirl or rush. Just a soft downward drift, like a feather returning to earth. The dream world folded in layers of mist and light. The trees, the fish, the mountains, the little creature with the glowing fruit, all faded like stars at dawn. Ori's eyes grew heavier. They felt warmth beneath them, something soft and familiar. A pillow. Ori blinked. They were back in bed. The ceiling above glowed faintly with the stickers they'd seen 100 times before, only now, they shimmered just a little more. The map lay quietly on the windowsill, no longer glowing, but still real. Outside, the stars twinkled. But one star, just one, sparkled brighter than the rest. As if it was smiling. Ori curled beneath the blanket, their body warm and still. The world around was silent, gentle, and safe. Their eyes slowly closed, the last image in their mind a swirl of light. A whisper drifted across the room. Every dream begins somewhere. Sometimes, just under the bed.